I managed to get a chance to play the closed beta of Warhammer 40k Darktide recently, which is a pretty highly anticipated game amongst the 40k community, as it appears to marry the likes of the Left 4 Dead games and the 40k universe. Other games like Deathwing have attempted this without too much success, so I wanted to have a brief chat about my initial impressions of Darktide and how I think the game is shaping up for its November 30th release date. Just keep in mind that the game is currently in that closed beta period, meaning limited access, and also the game is not complete or released yet. In other words, it's going to be a bit buggy and the game won't be quite fully polished, but I still will be talking about some of the bugs and issues I ran into. When you start the game, the first thing you'll do is create your own operative, being able to choose from 4 different classes. These are Veteran Sharpshooter, Zealot Preacher, Psyker Psychonetic, and Ogryn Skullbreaker. The 4 classes play differently, with different weapons, abilities, specials, and unlocks. You'll also be able to customize your operative with the game's own character creation, which was surprising but kinda cool, letting you have your own little touch to your character and naming them what you want. It helps you feel a bit more attached to your operative than other games in this same genre. The game will also ask for your character's backstory, choosing from a handful of different options such as what planet you're from, how you came to join the Astra Militarum or Imperial Guard, and more. But once you're in, you'll spawn in a hub base or station of some sort where your character, along with lots of other players, can all run around. Here you'll be able to see your character in third person, which is pretty cool, but at the moment, the main purpose of this area seems to be mission selection and matchmaking, or just buying a few weapons. You can also access your inventory, but the game seems to absolutely hate it when you do that. Whenever I selected the inventory menu, the frame rate dropped down as low as single digits and never seemed to fix itself until the menu was closed, meaning doing anything like switching my weapons felt way more difficult than it of course should have been. I also had my settings set to high but with ray tracing off, because despite playing on an RTX 3080, ray tracing seemed to tank the performance, and even without it, there were some environments and large areas that caused the frame rates to drop drastically. Upon finding my first match and 3 other players to attempt it with, the game managed to take minutes to load us into the level. I'm unsure if this was the game's fault or a player who was taking forever to load in, but the load times did seem to improve over my time playing. In this first mission, we're all playing the same character, the Veteran Sharpshooter, and we're all basically brand new to the game, meaning we just kind of ran around looking at the environments and shooting anything that moved. The Sharpshooter is your standard class in the game, starting with a las rifle and a shovel to beat heads in. Despite being an easy level, we all went down a handful of times and ended up being wiped out by a boss type enemy before we even got to the end section of the level. I'd run out of ammo at the boss encounter, meaning I just had to attempt to smack him with my shovel until he pummeled me into nothing. The rest of my allies didn't fare any better. On my second attempt with new players, we managed to get through this level 10 times easier, obviously proving that teamwork and prior experience pay dividends. I then tried another mission which I joined just after it had started, meaning 2 players who were noticeably higher level were a little bit ahead, and then proceeded to run ahead at what felt like Mach speeds, leaving Pyrosync and I behind, causing us to have to run through a gauntlet of enemies they left behind, whilst trying not to get killed and catch up to them. By the end we were all required on an elevator, meaning that we were able to catch up with them for the final boss fight and complete the level as a team. I played a few more levels as the Sharpshooter before creating a new operative. I had to try out the Ogryn for myself, as I'd seen other players having a ball. He's a lot more of an up close and personal type than the Sharpshooter, starting with his large baton and a single shot shotgun type weapon, as well as a charge ability where you'll just run full bore into the enemies, bowling them over. It's awesome playing the Ogryn because you're also much taller and bigger than all the other classes, making you feel a lot more powerful and a lot less defenseless against bigger and more dangerous enemies. According to a few players in the in-game chat, they were having quite a lot of issues with disconnecting from matches a majority of the time. I didn't personally experience this, but it seemed like a major issue for a lot of people. Despite the fact you don't really get much time to look, the environments in this game are pretty detailed and look relatively phenomenal. I did see a decent amount of texture problems and some janky looking dead bodies and such, but nothing game breaking or absurd, and the environments definitely fit that 40k aesthetic. The enemy hordes also look pretty phenomenal. When you see a collection piling out of a doorway sprinting towards you, it looks and feels pretty sick, along with some of the more dangerous units such as the Plague Ogryn or Flamer enemies who all pack a punch and look wholly unique and different. I know this game is focused around chaos and such, but I'd love to see additions later on in the game's lifetime of other terrifying races such as Tyranids or Orcs, as the base for this game could be made into something brilliant if it's supported for the next few years. There seems to be a handful of missions working up in difficulty, but I couldn't really tell which missions I'd already completed or not without remembering the convoluted name or sometimes objectives of the mission. I kind of just wish there was a small little tick or something next to it to say you've beaten it once. Now, despite the fact that this genre and type of game have never been the most exciting or addictive to me, especially not compared to quite a lot of people who are literally obsessed with the likes of Left 4 Dead or Warhammer Vermintide, I'm still pretty excited to play the full release and see exactly what this game becomes, both at the release and along the line. If they fix the performance issues and connectivity problems, and have plenty of content at release and onwards, I could see this game becoming a super popular and almost a go-to game for any 40k fans or fans of video games in general.